preparing to stream the meeting.
It's telling me something on my screen. I'm not going to read it. I'm just hitting OK. Well, no, I don't have to do anything.
It looks like we are live on YouTube from my Zoom, and it's telling me it's still catching up. Okay, we are live on YouTube. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Successibility channel here on YouTube, brought to you by Thriving Blind Academy. I'm Kristen Smedley here with my partner, co-founder, co-everything that is Thriving Blind Academy, Charlie Collins, and we are bringing you a special, fun presentation today talking about how to empower our blind and low vision high school students for success beyond high school. Now, so many times I realized that with high school kids, we talk about the transition to college. Not everyone wants to go to college or has the means or the desire or whatever the college requires. There's a lot of all kids nowadays, not just in the blind community, looking at other options. So today's information that we're going to be sharing applies to whatever the next right step is for this high school student that is in your life beyond college. I'm going to put my concerned mom hat on for a hot second here and say, listen, this is about the students' dreams for their life ahead, not our, as loving parents, teachers, guidance counselors, whatever, not our dreams for them. So let's all agree to be in the right frame of mind today as we talk about this stuff and talk about guiding the high school students to thrive in the life that they would like to live. I should probably take a pause, let some folks do their swearing and crying and throwing things at me on the screen because they don't want to hear that. I get it. I was there. I've been there, done that. I was crushed under the weight of my own dreams. And then I'm telling you, when I realized it's not about me, it's about them, woo, does it get a heck of a lot easier. So today we're going to be diving into some of the success principles behind how your high school kiddos are going to thrive beyond the high school walls. And then also some very, very practical things that you can and should start doing today if you aren't already doing that. So with all of that said, I'm going to turn it over to Charlie to start diving into some stories and strategies around the foundations of success. What's up, Charlie?
Oh, well, I'm thinking about our transition to do this. And it's live somewhere. I can't tell. I'm just trusting in the process. Well, you mentioned college, and I graduated high school and did the college thing, and I didn't make it. My transition, there were many factors, but what we're teaching, what we're sharing from experience, I didn't do any of it. I went with total fear and I was paralyzed. It got me to the point where it built and built and built over my first semester where I couldn't go another day. I just felt like I was on an island and everybody didn't accept me. I didn't reach out. I didn't ask for help. I did nothing right. And I took responsibility in a way where I said, I'm not smart enough. I'll never make it. I can't do this. And because of that belief, because of that story, I was back at my parents' house and didn't make it. And I tried again, didn't make it again, because I didn't have a Thriving Blind Academy. I didn't have a platform. I didn't have people saying, here's what you do. I didn't have that. And my parents, I had a guidance counselor in high school. Come on. That guy told me after I shared my story of how I'm probably going to fail in college. Don't you get it? I can't see the boards. Actually back when I went, they still use chalkboards. And he agreed with me and he believed in me in a way where you should just not do anything because you're obviously legally blind and that must be so hard. So you're right. And I was the fifth of 6 children, and the 4 above me all went to college, and 2 of them were legally blind. So I didn't have that excuse at home. My parents said, "Too bad," and that was the truth of it. I did fail miserably, but I didn't. I feared because left to my own devices, my own thinking, I built up the fear. I built up the belief that I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, and that kept me home. And that plagued me because I got sicker. I got worse. I felt like it's not fair. I felt like a victim. It opened the door to more suffering, and until finally I got offered an opportunity, kind of like going to college again, kind of like transitioning from high school to get a scary job. But that was the next thing in my life, was an opportunity to work in a business that sold like not entertainment, like fun vehicles, motorcycles, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what? Why would somebody be offering me this opportunity? Well, when we transition, Kristen, right? You and I, we're only today talking about a decision, a transition that, yes, looks scary. Yes, it's a change, but I want to go from where I am right now to move forward in my life. So the only way to do that is to step into some sort of transition, make a change in your life. And I knew it was time. What I was doing wasn't working. I wasn't happy with it. I was doing odds and ends and jobs and playing the blind card and feeling sorry for myself. And boy, if that was 21 years old or so, 22, if that was going to be life, no thank you. And it was scary. And, I got offered a job and I thought, why would somebody offer me a job? I failed in everything. I've failed in school. I failed here. I failed in this. I don't, you know what I mean? So I was going into that opportunity with the story that now there's something wrong with him. He's offering me a job. And so, what it came down to was, one, he believed in me, something I didn't have anymore. He believed in me. He said, I know you. You've been coming around this place. And I believe in you. I like the way you carry yourself. You're passionate about motorcycles, ATVs, and all. I know I'm legally blind, but hey, we all have passions. and the way I talked to, and I said, really? Because in those moments, I wasn't on stage. I didn't know I was, you know what I mean? I didn't know I had an audience, which I didn't, but there was nothing holding me back from just coming from my true self. He saw that part of me I never did. So he believed in me. And then reasonable accommodations. So I'm legally blind. I'm going to go work in the sighted world, selling. And I don't know how to do that as a blind person, as a legally blind person. So I asked for help. So in any transition, asking for help is a good thing. Talking to the right people. And, building that success team around you, whether that's friends and guidance offices and all the things you're going to share. I mean, that's amazing, good stuff. So I got my help. I got reasonable accommodations, video magnification, lighting, large print disc, dark writing. And Kristen, I'll tell you, when we've been sharing and working in the academy for a long time, some of it was intuitive. I didn't have someone, but I thought, this showroom, this whole place is dark and I don't like it. So I repainted it. And the owner at the time said, yeah, if you want to repaint it. I did Kawasaki green and Yamaha blue. So it was kind of ugly, but it was bright. And then I started putting new lighting around. And then I started hanging signs on the leather jackets, on the helmets, and making big signs for all the vehicles, so I could see them. So I wasn't paranoid and thinking, oh God, they're going to ask me a price. I can't come out and help people. Instead, I improved the environment. I created an environment that was successful for me. And the next thing you know, all the sales and all the people kind of liked it. Not kind of, the numbers showed it because people could see it easier. The lighting was better. I rearranged things. And why did I do that? I did it all for me. And then I realized, that was a big shift. Oh, well, what works for me helps others. That's cool. Because I felt like I don't want to ask for anything because I'm a pain in the neck. Not at all. Then I went out to the gardens. I thought, how can I make this a better place? I ripped them all out and I replanted all gardens and with flowers and stuff. And it created a better experience for people, which took the pressure off. No longer was I the legally blind guy that came to work. I was the guy on the team. And because of all that, and that transition, sure. And Crystal, let me tell you, things got tough. You don't just visualize a successful transition. That's exactly what's going to happen. No, stuff got hard. Customers wondered why I looked funny at them. And I wanted to run. Like, what do you mean? Because I do, kind of look outside of my eye. I can kind of see the camera better now. But, you're talking to people like that, they get a little weirded out. So instead of calling him stupid, which I did in my head, I then learned how to look and talk to people and not worry about eye contact and start believing in myself again. And I hit a wall. I got frustrated. I got scared. What am I doing? This was the stupidest thing I ever could have done. I need to run. And running only got me sicker. So I said, nope, take a breath, take responsibility. This is the environment I'm going to work in, thrive in. How can I make that possible? And the answers come.
So I'm hearing all of the principles that I just heard you say in that story is what I want to just call out for folks that maybe haven't watched a lot of our chats or been involved with the Academy to understand what these principles are that we're all through. And that is foundational for the strategies that we're going to talk about for the practicality of being in the walls of high school. The first one is taking responsibility, because there is a million things in there. Okay, if you know us on this channel, you know that Kristen tends to make really big numbers out of really small numbers, but there are several, is the word I'm looking for. There were several elements of that story where you could have very easily not taken responsibility. You could have sat there and said, this place is very dim. I can't really see. I'm not going to be successful here. And that's why. Just like I was thinking about in my boys, Michael and Mitchell, in their high school. And for those of you that don't know, haven't been here for a while, Michael has now gone on through college, Penn State, and he's working at his dream job in Disney World. And Mitch is in his going into his third year of college already. And they had very different high school journeys with equal success that was successful for each of them. Very different. However, in their high school building, when Michael got there, because he's older, he got there first, he realized that there were a few things that if they were in place, tactile markers, then navigating would be so much easier for him independently. And he worked with the maintenance team to let them know the different, and then they painted some of there were like these pillars all through this school. I don't know. I guess that at the time they built the school, pillars were the thing, but they blended with so many things and it became frustrating for the boys. But same thing, Charlie, they painted, I think it was like halfway up or something. They did something to make them stand out, but still aesthetically pleasing to all of the regular folks going through there that have issues with things that have to be matchy, right? But just those kinds of things, taking responsibility for the surroundings in there. The other thing I wanted to make sure that people heard is that ask for help. And I actually see this as, if you don't have the high school students that you're guiding in your life that are blind or low vision and haven't had them practice this relentlessly, make that a goal. Just keep asking for help when they need it. Keep asking, because honestly, what we're finding in all of our work out in the workforce, with all of the employers and whatnot, asking for help when you need it, it's like surface to one of I believe the top 3 skills that employers are looking for, because people are wasting so much time with not asking for help.
Trying to figure it out on their own. And I just want to say yes. And one part of that principle before is, when you ask someone for help, you're helping them, because I don't know about you, and I do know about you. We both like when people ask us for help. I love helping people. I mean, whether it's a neighbor, my parents, whether whatever it might be, it could be a stranger at an airport. Hey, do you know where gate D7 is? And I want to say you're asking a blind person, but I absolutely know where it is. And you got to go by Starbucks, and But I tell them, and I feel good about that. And I was too afraid to ask for help, and so ask for help, because not only are you receiving, you're giving by allowing someone to help you.
Exactly. Just don't go too far with it. Oh, we could go on with stories with Mitchell, and he says it is, why would he deprive the world of doing things that make them happy and helping him? Oh, that's the middle child. He is a typical middle child. Anyway, okay. The other one that I heard you talk about was building a success team around you. And that's, again, asking for help. And then there's you keep folks around you that are going to help you to be successful. And this is actually a strategy that I have been talking about with my sighted daughter she just finished high school, and with her girlfriends and teammates. Stick with the people that are more on your success team side of things than your frustration team. All of us should be looking to do that. You mentioned reasonable accommodations. I know that in this community, so many times, especially with the high school group, we're feeling like, oh, I'm asking for too many things, or, oh, if I ask them to change this, or a teacher to make sure that this is adapted for me, that's just asking too much, and I don't want to be a pain in the neck. And you had said that early on too, Charlie. It's not a pain in the neck. The teachers in the school are there to help you be successful. I mean, it's really comes down to that question: what can I do to help you be successful? That is what a teacher is thinking, as is oh my gosh, when Michael walked with the maintenance, the head of maintenance through the high school, changing just a few things and adding some tactile stuff, that man was so thrilled, because part of his responsibility in the school is that the building is safe for people to move through. And it was a relief for him and fun for him at the same time to be a part of that solution. And then, well, that ties right into the thing that actually, Charlie, I was writing this as you were alluding to it, and then you flat out said it once I wrote it, and that was set up your environment for success.
Yeah, we do that. We do that webinar, and or the master class is how to set up your environments for success. And you say build a success team. Well, I say it too, but you know what? It's build a friendship team, build a like-minded team, build people that care, that share some of the beliefs and things like that. So sometimes people think success has to do with money and all that. Success, well, maybe it's a like-minded team. You'll find that team of people because they're out there, as Kristen's kids have done as they went to college and high school, building their text success teams, and there are people they can bounce in, and I'm not going to share that stuff, but that stuff. And I realize, so another thing about transition, I just want to cover this, is when I transitioned from high school to the black hole, there wasn't college online. There weren't, like, now you can take college online or just take a trade online. You can just learn how to get your real estate license online, or your sell insurance online. It's not like this transition needs to be, you got to pack up the car, go 3 hours, another state, halfway across the country, live in a dorm to go to college. That is one way, but it's not the way. That might not be right for you. So when you're thinking, when you're really processing this change in your life, know your options.
Love it. Okay, so all of these foundational elements of success and the principles of success and how to implement them and prepare for this transition, really everything that we're talking about here is building over the high school career, at every opportunity, building the students' confidence. Because Charlie, I'm sure that we could talk about this for hours upon hours about where, stepping into the fear of transition, asking for help, inviting people to be a part of your success team. The guts to do it, the wherewithal to do it, comes from a level of confidence. So I'd like to switch for a hot second. And we really dove into that in the Monday Mentor call the other day about this whole element of confidence. So it's really fresh on my mind. And it's been something I've been talking about this entire month as we're heading back to school, when I'm working with families that have blind and low vision kids, that I see as one of that through line of my boys. We built their confidence over the years to be able to step into some of these things. So I'm going to walk through quickly 4 elements that I see were critical, and some practical things to do in the high school years to prepare for all this transition we're talking about, that really are fundamental things in all of the young people that I know with blindness and low vision that have made successful transitions. And I don't mean that there was never failure, but they made successful transitions into whether it was college or the workforce, and then maybe switch. Michael had a very successful transition into college and then realized he chose the completely wrong environment, and he had to transition again and still had success there. So the 4 elements are social, knowing your strengths, knowing the strategies that work for you to be successful, and your surroundings. So let's take these a little bit at a time. In terms of social, this is where I know that a lot of folks, including me, when Michael was heading into high school, the thought, and middle school too, the thought of, I was thinking, oh my gosh, his social life is going to be so limited because of the blindness. I was still in the mode of blaming blindness for a lot of things back then. And what I realized was, because he had been so social in sports, that was his social life. And then all of that kind of fell off the radar because his vision had declined, and just a lot of different things happened, and sports weren't the big option for him anymore. So I was so concerned about his socializing, his social development, and Michael's very social. So I was in this, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. And of course, as usual, I learned from Michael, because I know nothing going into this. He kind of figures it out as he goes. What he ended up doing, and then I had to really coach Mitchell through this, my second blind son. He looked for any team that he could possibly be a part of. He figured out that on track and field, there's the long jump, that he only had to work with the coaches to make a couple of accommodations, and he was able to fully participate in the long jump. He had played, I should say, he had been on baseball teams, football teams, and lots of other things that weren't panning out anymore. He also, they had, I guess in the first or second week of maybe the first day that the freshmen went in, there was a club fair where they had, the whole cafeteria was filled with tables of all the different clubs. Now, that is a blind kid's worst nightmare, a cafeteria with all that noise and trying to figure out all the booths. Well, what we figured out was all those clubs were listed online on the school website. So we went through, and we've done this at high school. We've done this at college. It works. Go through and look for all of the things that student might be interested in. Michael wanted to do about 57 of them. Mitchell found one. Mitchell found one, but one is all they need. So then, so then Michael and Mitchell would go into that fair and find out all the different clubs. But they would go in and say, I'm interested to know where the booths are for this, 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 and this, right? So we did some work on the front end. You don't even have to attend that fair. You find those ones online that your child has an interest in, and then they can reach out through email. There's all contact information there, have some conversations in email and text before they even walk in to that club. And then people with that club, it lets them know that they're coming to look for them and that kind of thing. And when I tell you, Charlie, I never would have believed in the power of this so much, because Michael was already social and wanting all of that. Mitch didn't want any of it. And I'm not sure if people that are watching are familiar with the biggest blog post, not the biggest that I ever did. The one that was received the most and shared the most and talked about the most was when I wrote about in sophomore year, Mitchell sat alone at lunch. the first week of school because he didn't think he had any friends in that lunch, couldn't find anybody. And it turned out that the root of the problem wasn't that he was in a big school and they gave him a lunch where he didn't know anybody. The root of the problem was he didn't have a social life because he didn't reach out and join any clubs or teams or anything like that. And I'm telling you, if you are guiding a high school student that is an introvert or incredibly shy, or like my Mitchell, wanted no parts of socializing at high school. In his mind, it was bad enough I made him get on that bus every day and go to that building, and he wanted no parts of it. When Mitchell realized how, I mean, it was a struggle, and it was a lot of effort to get him to join one club. When he realized, and I believe it was the chess club, because he joined something that he knew he would be the best at. That's my Mitchell. And he had success there, but he met other kids that challenged him because they were really good too. And then it turned out that they all watched the same goofy SpongeBob episodes. When he realized how wonderful it was to find other people like himself, it changed everything. And then he actually did start signing up for more and more and more clubs and found some really fun things. And by the time he left high school, I mean, those are all the people now that he's actually out to lunch and swimming with a bunch of his high school friends. And that is something I never thought would have been possible the way that Mitchell started high school. But it helped once he started with one club. I watched him gain confidence. Then he started talking to teachers about things that he needed, and it all grew from there. Charlie, do you want to jump in on anything about confidence there with socializing?
Well, you were sharing my story for a while. I mean, that lunchroom, why doesn't anyone come up to me? Why do I got to do everything? Why doesn't a school? They should, he should, she should, not taking responsibility, wondering why it's so difficult. I hate it type of thinking. And same thing, like you said, back at the motorcycle dealership. It didn't have good lighting. There was not good contrast there. The bathrooms were dirty and not lit well. And it's like, I get that you sighted people can survive in this environment, but so contrast was so critical. And like, I didn't think they should fix this place for me. I'm not that important. The world is not built. All these stores and companies and places, they don't design them thinking, what happens if a blind person comes in here? They design them for the best flow of traffic and all that. So I went in with I know we're going to talk about environment, and part of that environment is what you're talking about, is having these success teams, these communities, these people that you can laugh with. You can talk about SpongeBob. You can talk about motorcycles. You instantly have a connection. I love the Grateful Dead. And I've been to 92 concerts before the lead guy passed away in 1995. And no matter if I meet somebody in Aruba and I have a Grateful Dead shirt, hey, you like the Dead? Yeah, boom, we're friends. Instant. I don't care how short, tall, sighted, blind, color, kind of sunglasses, the shoes, sandal. I don't know anything. Nothing matters. The only thing, we have an instant connection. And that's what you're talking about. It's really because you're going from a familiar zone, a comfort zone, a place that you have built or you're successful in. Maybe not real successful, it doesn't matter. It just means you're comfortable. And now you're going to leave that and walk to a place where you're going to feel alone. It happens to sighted people. It happens to everybody. I remember when my wife left and started working for the state. And I'm like, you're an adult and you're sighted. And I find it funny when sighted people, oh, you guys have the same fears I do. I thought I had them because I was blind. No, I have them, period. I'm human. And I can put the blame on my eyesight, but it's really that I'm not willing to take responsibility and step into what can be possible by doing what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that we have other master classes that are coming in the academy that we dive way deeper into this whole social thing and how you can find people to sit with at lunch and all of the things. But this is one of those elements that look for ways to guide the student, not do it for them, guide them, make suggestions to build at least a dip in the, a toe dip in the water to build a social life. I know that some of the kids want to be social butterflies like my Michael, and other ones want to keep to themselves a little more like Mitch. But I'm telling you, once that social piece started, they were practicing, building the confidence. Not only did all these other elements we're going to talk about happen, but moving on from high school, it's easier when they have all that chance to practice during those 4 years to then go into a new work environment and meet a coworker, or, like Charlie's saying, find common ground with people, no matter if it's a college campus or a workplace. Okay. So we actually, Charlie kind of started us in this with the surroundings and your environment. The greatest thing, one of the greatest things that we did, my boys and I did in their entire K-12 year, they didn't really have to do it in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, because it was whenever they moved to a new school or a new wing. Our schools are huge here in Bucks County. When they were on a new wing of the school, they would get in there for weeks with their mobility instructor over the summer. Now, remember I said that Mitchell was like, I had to drag him to school kicking and screaming and put him on that bus. He was not a school kind of guy. Taking time out of his summer to visit a school. Are you even kidding me? He wasn't happy about it, and I didn't care. The mobility instructor would take them over. I will say it is in the summertime, it's a whole lot different than during the school year. I mean, the teachers are like, it's low key. There's not many people there. They would have, it was really building relationships, because the few people that were in the building at the time would see the boys and have conversations with them. And I'm telling you, the maintenance staff in every school they've ever been in, they know my kids the most, because they spent a lot of time going through the school in the summer when no one else was there for competition. But that was one of the things that I saw as building their confidence tremendously. It's in the top 5, because they would get into that school. I mean, you imagine in our high school, in Michael's class, there were over 600 graduates. And I believe Mitchell was somewhere in the 500, right? There's 4 grade levels in that giant, it looks like a junior college campus, this school. So they would go in for weeks before school opened, getting to know every nook and cranny of that school. And they would run through their schedule of, okay, you're going to go from this room to that room, from here to lunch to, and they knew where everything was. When Michael went in on day 1, freshman year, when it was only the freshmen, he had full confidence walking through that building. And guess what? Not one of the other kids did. He said he had never seen so many people freaked out. All of his friends were panicking. They were stressed out. They had no idea where things were, and they were never going to be able to make it to classes. Well, Michael, in true Michael fashion, started showing people secret staircases that nobody was going to tell them about. And then he had an elevator key for this one piece of equipment that he had to bring. And then it was hopping on the elevator. Like, he became the king of the building, because he knew where everything was, and everyone else was so stressed out. That's actually the second element of this. Not only did it build their confidence to know about their surroundings and where everything was beforehand, they had that whole, I just lost my train of thought because I heard my dog freaking out on the outside of my office, but it built their whole, started building their social life, because people started coming to them to say, hey, I hear that you know where this is. I hear you know where that is. And it worked out tremendously. Oh, the stress level. That's what I was going to say. Their stress level was 0 traveling through that school, whereas everybody else's stress level was as high as can be. And we've often talked in a lot of stuff at the Academy with the whole element of bandwidth and how much bandwidth it takes, sometimes extra bandwidth, to navigate some things. Not when you know the entire school building like the back of your hand. Michael, we always joked that when he was in like first grade, they called him the tour guide, because he was this little, kindergarten, first grade. Nobody knew where anything was in the elementary school. Michael knew where everything was from memorizing it. So surroundings. So we've covered a lot of that, different, ideas around setting your surroundings up for success, knowing about what the surroundings are before you even go into them to lower that stress level and build confidence. The next thing we want to go into is knowing your strengths. And this is where I see this whole element of the competitive edge, that a student who has an individualized education plan, I believe when it's done right and facilitated right, and they are guided correctly, successfully, that they actually have a competitive edge. Because I'm telling you, in that IEP, and we on October 2nd, we have a whole mastermind that dives into each year what the IEP roles and responsibilities and goals should look like. But so we're not going to deep dive into that today, but I'm telling you, on the strengths alone, the fact that my boys were a part of their IEP meetings from kindergarten, they were a part of developing goals. They had a different, I increased their level of responsibility in that whole process. I know people refer to it as a document. It is a process. It is the biggest success strategy in school. As we added more and more responsibility to it, they got to sit and hear through our 7 to 8 meetings every year, what their strengths are. Can I just tell you that my sighted daughter never heard that about herself? She didn't hear about what her strengths were. She heard about where she needed to improve. That's typically how it works. And we were in public education, so those of you in different types of education may experience things differently.
No.
But in public school, the IEP, you talk about strengths, and the non-IEP kids don't. And I don't necessarily, well, now that all my kids are through K to 12, I can proclaim that everyone should have an IEP, and special ed departments everywhere are freaking. Yeah.
For any of us or some parent or somebody that doesn't know, what does that stand for? IEP.
So it's the individualized education plan. Now, let that sink in.
What tool is that? What is it for? What is it? What does it do?
It's literally the blueprint of designing the individual student's education plan. It looks at strengths, challenges, goals, where the areas of improvement need to be, how we're going to get to achieve the goal, what strategies work best. Parents are involved. Parents should be involved. Teachers, an entire team sits and makes a plan for that one student.
For the 1 year.
For the 1 year.
So sophomore, junior, senior, every year you get to re-up that plan and hone in on your strengths. And, obviously in school, they kind of focus on weaknesses. Well, then you need to learn. And they know in the plan, I would say, and we steer away from the weaknesses. Doesn't mean I don't need to take biology if it's recommended, but I'm certainly not going to follow the science path because it's not my strengths.
Well, and the thing too is, Charlie, this is where I see it's the most beneficial and gives such a competitive edge, and why it's crucial, in my opinion, that those that are watching this or listening to this, take it in that if you are guiding a high school student or students, it is crucial for them to know their strengths, because I'm telling you, there is so much in this world that is saying you have so many weaknesses, all these barriers in a world not built for blindness. If the story isn't in your mind, I have all these strengths and I'm going to tap into them. The story then becomes, what is the general story happening in the world causing the 70% unemployment rate and the huge dropout rate? It's the weakness. And when I watched that my boys, I won't even say that they were raised to look at their strengths. It just happened. It wasn't intentional for me. It's just that I used that IEP to really manage their education and then have them take responsibility. They just kept hearing about all their strengths, and we worked through it and spent time on it. So it was at the forefront of their mind. To this day, the forefront of their mind is what they are, what their strengths are, not necessarily their weaknesses. That's not to say to not pay attention to the weaknesses, because there are some areas that, okay, well, we do need to, if our strengths are, speaking and getting in front of the classroom and all that, that's wonderful. But if our weakness is Braille and we need to focus a little heavier so that we have literacy in place, then sure. But my point is that a high school, a student going through high school and leaving high school, knowing what they bring to the world, knowing their strength, knowing their competitive advantages, has, I would say, a 100 million% chance at succeeding at what it is that they want to do over somebody that's coming into the world saying, oh my gosh, I'm a burden. I can't do this. I can't do that. The world isn't built for me, with a whole different story in their minds. And like I said, on October 2nd, we're going to really dive into the elements of the IEP that I see are making, the opportunity for the competitive edge. But knowing the strengths alone and hearing about them and talking about them and developing them are a huge indicator for success.
I would say you're just a bit passionate about those. I release something by asking those questions. Woo! And that's why you're going to be offering a nice coaching, personalized coaching to help people to thrive in that area. Because what I know is that your boys had 4 years, all years, but let's just focus on high school. 4 years of these IEPs done the right way, with building the right team, understanding by the time they transitioned into college, they already had an advantage. They knew themselves. They knew what they were going for. And they still hit bumps, but they course corrected. Now, if they didn't go to college, but after 4 years of these and moved into the workplace, they have an advantage over obviously other visually impaired kids, but sighted kids, because they know themselves. They know their weaknesses. They know, and they show up at interviews different than the timid little kids that are sighted. So that's what I'm hearing. And I know that we're going to really dive into that, because it is one of the most important elements of helping form and shape an independent, responsible, thriving child with a vision impairment.
Yeah. And it's a tool that's already there. It's already the legal tool that the school has that these students have access to. That's why I get so passionate. My hair starts to stand up, because it's a tool that's already there. The perception of that tool is typically negative, and I see it as a full-on positive when it's put in place correctly. Now, the final point on this, actually, we're transitioning wonderfully into it. Again, on October 2nd, I'll go into more detail about this, but people might want to catch their breath on this one, because it's a shocker to a lot of families and teachers of visually impaired. My boys, by middle sophomore year, definitely by the end of sophomore year, all the reins of the IEP meetings were turned over to them. They were responsible to coordinate the date, the time, get the messages out. And by junior year, they were fully running. They created the PowerPoints. They ran the meeting. They did the whole entire thing. I used to joke that I was just going to order pizza, put my feet up, and be there just so I could watch the fruits of all the labor for all those years. But what do you think that transitioned into now? Michael's in meetings down in Florida for Disney Corporation, and he has his confidence is full on, because he's done this before. And when he was in college, he's meeting with teachers, deans, all these different kinds of people. He's done that before, with the safety net of the TVI, the special ed coordinator, the parent, right? I didn't necessarily hold their hand through it, but guiding them each step of the way, adding another responsibility every year, another responsibility. And in that, managing those meetings and being a part of the success of them is the fourth element here. And that was the fact that my boys knew the strategies, the teaching strategies that work best for them to learn the material they needed to learn, and they were able to communicate them. Now, that took practice, as you can imagine. So some of you might be thinking with a junior in high school that they've never had that opportunity, never even thought about what are my strengths, what are the strategies that work for me, and how am I going to communicate them? It's something that you practice. You walk them through communicating to, and actually we would do this thing where at the end of the school year, the teachers that the boys had all year would come to the IEP meeting, right? And then all the teachers that they were either had already identified for the next year, or at least the head of the department would come in. It would be one big meeting, and the boys would go subject by subject and talk with have the two teachers, or them and the teacher that they had that year, say, here's what worked. They were in all AP classes too, and had Braille. Like there was a lot of adaptations, and they walked through the strategies that worked. And then they would crack up laughing at and talk about all the things that were epic fails. And they're like, don't ever do that. That didn't work at all. But just knowing the strategies that work for them to be successful and being able to communicate it, then you walk out of those high school walls and into a job interview, or the college interview, or talking with a college professor or a supervisor, and say, you know what, this is the way that I'm able to learn best. This is how I can best be successful. And I'm finding out from so many, I've never talked to so many employers in my life and people in the business field. I was always in the education field, and I'm finding out from them, and Charlie, I'm sure you can attest to this too. They love an employee, or like a teacher, a professor in college loves when someone comes to them and says, here are the ways that I know that I can be successful. And this is and speaking up for themselves and talking about if there needs to be a reasonable accommodation or not, or, whatever the thing is, being able to communicate that is huge.
It shows confidence, belief in self. It shows you take responsibility. It shows you're no longer on the sidelines of the game of life. You're now on the field. You're actually picking up the ball. You're assembling plays. You're building the team. You got a good front line. I mean, think about it. I mean, you're a superstar because life will beat you down. It'll beat you down. It's just the way it is. The human, if you believe what the most of the narrative is, and it's depressing and and things aren't good and nobody's hiring, then God bless you, because that's BS. That is not. It's you. Oh, it was this morning. I was going to say you, but I was on doing something this morning, and the gentleman was saying I'm optimistic most of the time, but I can really be pessimistic. And I said, and what determines that? And I questioned. I said, really, I get that, because I can focus on the problem. I can look at what's not possible. I can blame my eyesight. And why is that having power? Because I'm feeding it through thought, through just engaging it. Where my attention goes, my energy goes. So I then could stop. What am I doing? That doesn't serve anybody, or me especially. And I don't want to go down that road. So then I say some questions, right? What can I do? Who can I ask for help? Why am I feeling this way? Is there something I need to resolve with it? You know what I mean? So why does that make, you just said it too. It's like, that's why blind people, vision impaired, I know you always talk about the edge and these advantages. We live in a world that's not built for us. If we don't ask ourselves questions, how can I best approach this? What can I do in this environment to make it successful? I do that all the time to shift me, and then I get the answers, or the people show up, stuff like that. And I think that's what we're saying in this whole thing. It's start questioning yourself, start questioning what the problem is, and you will get the answers. If you don't know, ask, who can I approach to get help with this? And what I do is I'll ask, and that person will say, okay, who in your company is the person, or who on this campus is the person that I could get the answer for what I'm looking for? What is their name? What is their email? What is their extension? Don't be afraid. That's asking. And that person will give you that. Hi, I just was speaking to Bob. Bob gave me your information. and this is my problem. Could you guide me to a solution? And they love that. But you got to ask. Don't take no for an answer ever. I mean, it's usually that person. So say, who is the person that can get me what I want?
Well, and there you go. I mean, that's a phenomenal way to wrap this up, because really it's as I'm thinking about this, the key elements of success for preparing the high school student for the transition outside of high school, I really do see it as asking for help in these 4 years, figuring out, and I know that it's a dance for folks that maybe hadn't fine-tuned that way back in elementary school, of when to let them, be independent and when to really step in and help. It's a skill, and it's a wonderful time to be able to practice that in high school and guide them to say, you know what, do you think that maybe that's something that you could have figured out on your own? Or, yeah, I think that you really did need some assistance with that. Have those conversations. And if just a few of these skills to really get some great practice in that is really going to set them up for success outside of high school. Like we mentioned, there's October 2nd. We have a masterclass coming in all of the things. Almost all the things. It would take me 5 hours or so to really go into all the elements of how Michael and Mitchell had such success in the K-12 education system. We will be diving into a lot of that. December 2nd, we have the Succeed Without Sight Summit. Registration is not open for that yet, but it is coming soon. And that's where we have a whole day where you can learn all different perspectives on. We'll have an hour devoted to education, to the business world, entrepreneurship, all the different things in terms of thriving with blindness, and learning from people that have done lots of different paths in terms of succeeding without sight. And we are opening in September, brand new, the Thriving Blind community membership. Right now we have Thriving Blind Academy, where you can come in and for a yearly membership, have this kind of conversation every Monday, and then be able to ask questions and get feedback on the different things and challenges happening. In addition to an online portal of, I don't know, Charlie, how many hours of online videos and deep dives? We have to be in the hundreds of hours on that portal now.
I'm not going to add it up. That would take too long. But I think what we're going to be releasing is the toe dipping community, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. The toe dipping community releases in September. We have the academy, and then we have oh my gosh, I'm just getting my head around this. I want to dip my toe in it. And I'm calling it it's a free platform and a smaller community that isn't so overwhelming, but it's the little bite-sized platform where we just give you little bits of information at a time, digest it, and then take the next right step until you're ready to jump in to off the diving board, do a flip maybe into the academy, and really designing the life of your dreams.
Yeah, exactly. And is our academy right for you? Well, you will find out in that community. I mean, you should be able to find out on our website by going to our YouTube page. But hey, all of us need to step into our transitions and our growth the way we need to. So we're not pushy. Just get it done.
So you can get that info at thrivingblindacademy.org. Make sure you subscribe here to the Successibility channel, because we are going to be doing these conversations as we have programs that are building and people give us feedback on what the information is that you would like to know. If you have further questions on the topics that we talked about today, put them in the comments and we'll come in and if we can answer them for you in the comments, we will. If you want to come into our masterminds to get a more deep dive, that's a great idea too. And you can ask them in the academy or the community membership too. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.